Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon, sorry. First webinar, so I hope that you guys will all bear with us as we learn how to do this technology and hopefully do a good job of it. My name is Anna Murray. I am the Executive Director of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. To my side on your screen is our ASL interpreter, Jen. We appreciate that she's here to join us today to increase the accessibility of our event. And thank you to the Town of Lincoln for sponsoring that. So as we talk about sponsors, before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the sponsors who have helped to make this event possible. Our title sponsor is the Town of Lincoln. Thank you very much. We also have event sponsors: John Whitaker, Coldwell Banker Commercial Realty, Community Care of West Niagara, Cosmic Plants, Diane Rajima, Councillor for Ward 1, Town of Lincoln, H&R Block, Beamsville and Grimsby, Jerry's Auto Body, London Born Wine Company, Spark Lincoln, and Sue Ann Staff Estates Winery. We thank you all for your support. As your local chamber, our mandate is to grow and sustain the economic prosperity of our community. That mandate has been tested over the past few weeks as we've faced unprecedented challenges to our global and local economy, but we have remained committed to serving, connecting, and advocating on behalf of our members. As part of that commitment, we are pleased to welcome you to our first virtual State of the Town address, featuring Mayor Sandra Easton, Deputy Mayor J.D. Pachariva, Chair of Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Paul McPherson, Town of Lincoln CAO, Michael Kirkopoulos, and Economic Development Officer, Paul Deaney. We've already seen the immediate impact of the pandemic on the way we live, work, and connect within our community. And today our panelists will discuss the Town of Lincoln's response to our COVID-19 crisis and what plans are being put in place to allow us to recover and rebuild as the province enters into phase 1 of reopening. This webinar was designed to allow for input from our attendees. Some of you have already submitted questions as part of the registration process, and you'll also be able to submit questions during the event. To do that, please click on the Q&A icon that's at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please note that this webinar is being live streamed to the Chamber of Commerce's YouTube channel, and the recording will be made available for viewing after the event. So if you know anybody who missed it and there's lots of great content, please do share that link with them. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator, David Brown. David is a member of the Chamber's Government Relations and Advocacy Committee, and with his spouse Diane, operates Centennial House Bed and Breakfast in Jordan Station. David is a member of the Ontario Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. After 30 years in the land use planning field, he recently took on this new challenge as a provincial adjudicator. David enjoys volunteering and follows politics with great interest. David, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Anna, and good afternoon to all our participants, and welcome. This new reality of COVID-19 has changed the way we all do business, as our business community struggles to adjust, with some businesses closed, other businesses with no customers, which is our bed and breakfast experience, and still some working as hard as ever just to keep up with the changes. We take this time to like to commend the efforts of the town. Their work to keep us up to date through the town's websites and email notifications with the evolving information about the state of emergency has been exceptional, and thank you. Our town has benefited from strong leadership during these times, and we have some of those good people with us today. Our mayor and her team have provided that leadership, and it's my pleasure to introduce her today and invite her to share with us some of the things that the town has been doing to ensure that the community weathers this trying time. Now, Madam Mayor and I made a deal. We agreed that I wouldn't tease her about not wearing pants for video conferences, and she wouldn't comment on my COVID-19 hairdo. I'm going to stop there because I'll only get myself in trouble if I keep talking. So it's always my great pleasure to introduce our Mayor, Sandra Easton.
Mayor Easton, you're on mute. Sorry. I'm very sorry. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I want to thank the Chamber for organizing this in the virtual format. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have this, and I think it's quite an important time. I want to welcome Jen. I'm so pleased that we have the interpreter here today. This is a first for us, and it's going to make life much easier for those who want to watch on other platforms but wouldn't otherwise. Councillor Diane Rangiba is our representative on the Chamber. Thank you very much, Councillor, for the work that you've done. It was really through your work on the Accessibility Committee that the decision was made to have the American Sign Language interpreter in place. Since I was elected mayor, I always look forward to this spring State of the Town speech. It's an excellent opportunity. There's something about this time of year, and I have to say, particularly this year, the weather is unbelievable. I feel like it's July. We're moving things forward regardless of what's going on. And there's something about the freshness in the air, the openness, the fact that there's actual work being done as usual and programs are going forward. But it is no ordinary year. And so today I want to focus on more pressing needs and a status update on the situation we currently find ourselves in. But we're using a panel approach this year. It's very akin to the way we are doing business at the town. We have two teams of people that come together. Decisions are made by council. We have an operations team to administer them. And it's important that you have that technical information, accurate information about the details behind some of the questions you're going to ask. So I'm very pleased to have everyone with us today. And I also want to recognize other councillors who are participating, Councillor Russell, Councillor Timmers, Councillor Reimer, and also I want to acknowledge Councillor Mikulik and Councillor Renee. Now, whether it's Zoom or MS Teams or Skype, by now I'm sure many of you are getting used to this new way of communication with each other. And fortunately, we live at a time when this new technology can really benefit us. For business meetings or catching up with the family, I almost think it is extremely engaging to speak to the public this way. I look forward to the time when I can have face-to-face interactions with you. One of the most enjoyable times, the parts of this day, was always that half to 45 minutes beforehand when we could just get caught up. And sometimes you gave me some great stories that I shared. I've enjoyed the phone calls with people, and I hope that you will continue to do that. Spontaneous meetings in the grocery store. Now you can see who I am because I have a great face shield. But today I'm going to share what I think is timely. It's no surprise that there was no playbook for all of this. You can prepare for emergencies, for a gas leak or a flooding event, and based on best practice, when it comes to a health crisis like this, you know, at the local level, there's no book that you can pull off the shelf. And having said that, I'm very, very proud of what we've all gained in the face of these uncertain times. We've come together, we've generated innovative ideas, how to manage the crisis, how to keep the community and its residents as safe as we can. And in many ways, and I've said this a number of times, I believe we have been planning for this by building a more sustainable town, growing our economy, and building a strong team. Tough situations build even stronger communities, and adversity often builds character. On these metrics, our community has risen to the challenge. Our efforts have paid off. We are beginning to reopen and loosen some restrictions, but with that comes great optimism, but also fear. The town staff are working 7 days a week, and they are doing yeoman's work. This is important because your needs continue to be our priorities. It is our operations staff who follow through when you contact through my office, through the CAO's office, through the ward councillors. Now, we all enjoy public spaces, and I just got off a call recently, a discussion with local mayors. However, for all the anticipation that's out there, we have to keep the public health guidelines top of mind. This way, we can move on to help you rebuild, and in some cases, reorganize your business delivery plan. So it's important to stay 6 feet apart, 2 meters, physical distancing. Don't gather in groups of more than 5 people. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Avoid touching shared surfaces, staying home if you feel ill. If you remember these things, you will not have a problem. When you get out in a crowd, you will know what you need to do. If you happen to get out in a crowd, sometimes it happens when you're not expecting it. Our council and staff are working diligently on an economic recovery framework moving forward. This addresses not only the immediate need for crisis management resources for owners and operators, but also short-term measures to assist businesses as they reopen, and longer-term capacity building opportunities to ensure a more adaptive and resilient economy for the future. And I want to say to you that this morning I had a phone call, and this is what I heard. And I don't want to take away from the stories you're going to hear from my colleague panel members, but this is what I heard. Things are running well, Mayor. We have a great desire to move forward. We share that, as a matter of fact. We have never seen anything like this. We went from absolutely no business at Easter to a situation now where we can't keep up. Products are selling out. We're empty. We can't keep up. That's a great story. It's not in every area, but there is a lot of good news out there. There's no replacement for good health. And we all on council seriously do not want to have Lincoln experience another forced lockdown. So we need to balance the care with the details of opening up. And I'm grateful that all of you have been so cooperative, so interested and engaging and willing to work with all levels of government and support agencies to create this coordinated and community-minded plan for economic recovery in Lincoln. We've even seen a new spark in the community and inspiring creativity across the town. There is a deep desire to work together to get through this. We had one company convert a vegetable and fruit sanitizer to a PPE sanitizer at the peak of the crisis, when people were feeling the most vulnerable, when you couldn't find a mask anywhere. We had 2 companies who figured out a way to create hand sanitizer, put it on the market at a time when there was no hand sanitizer. It had just completely disappeared off the shelves. And also, the work that you have done, those of you who have just not thrown out, but put aside the old ways of doing business and coming up with curbside service and many other mechanisms for delivering your services. I have heard some very interesting stories. They will be revealed in more detail about people's response. There are uplifting stories about people going to their neighbors and others, helping them out, getting groceries. Meals on Wheels needed additional personnel. We had people step up. At town, regular business continues. There is no letdown. I want to reassure you, there is absolutely nothing that would motivate us to stop working. It's true that people are not there on the job, but the expectation is that the planning staff are working. They are working at home. And part of the call that I received this morning was because the individual wanted to make sure that the policies around cannabis were moving along and that very soon they would be coming to committee. So the expectation in the community has been well set. Rotary Park. Last week we started Rotary Park. Wonderful project. We've started with the skate park and the bike pump track. We've got upgrades for roads. Water infrastructure are getting started. Prices have been good. The town's also preparing for the opening of facilities and services. We don't know when, but we have to be ready. So when that decision is made today at 1:30, is it 1:30? Yes, if the Premier says at 1:30, I think he did it earlier, that something is opened, we have to be ready. Your expectation is that we are on the ball. We'll be in for this for the long haul. And so that means that council and staff will measure the magnitude of both the financial and social impact of the COVID-19 crisis. At the same time, we consider the impact of continued growth in preparation for the 2021-22 budget deliberations, which will begin in a few more weeks. And it's important to note that within that planning sphere, we will continue to consider actions that will relieve demands on social services. We do not provide social services, but we need to support many dimensions, and we need to make decisions within our own community that will make it easy within our mandate. We need to get businesses back up to speed. We need to promote jobs, continue to encourage new business, and improve our record developing more affordable housing units. Not everyone has been impacted by this crisis in the same way. Some people have lost their jobs or are facing extreme financial hardship. Demands on food banks or government assistance, it's beyond what most of us in our life we have experienced, unless possibly we are old enough to have been part of the Great Depression. We need to think about people recovery. People recovery as part of our overall economic recovery discussion. The stress for individuals and families is cruel and in many cases quite deep. And I speak now to the young people in Lincoln. I want to congratulate you all because your graduations are taking a different form, no different than what we're doing here now. But congratulations to you all. And I hope that whatever form those celebrations take, that you will see it as one of those milestones in your life. It's all good. It's all good. We know that you're facing a tough job market. We want to focus on keeping you engaged physically and mentally in a very positive way. Please take our congratulations today as one of those messages. And we need to take time to reconsider residents in long-term care centers, many of which saw this pandemic arrive right in their homes. We must ensure our libraries continue to be a vital resource for learning, particularly in these times of increasing home-based schooling. But I want to speak for a moment about the strong partnerships with all levels of government as we rebuild health and social services. Rest assured, staff will continue with council to take your concerns to the doorstep of our provincial and federal governments. And when the dust settles, the financial impact of managing is going to be significant. And we will be looking for their input and support. Hope in itself is not a strategy, but hope is a motivator. The decisions we make in this time and the future will continue to focus on fulfilling the vision of making Lincoln a place to grow, a place to prosper, and a place to belong. This can only be done side by side in partnership with each and every one of you. I want to thank all of you who are volunteering to help others get access to food and other essentials, to all the essential workers, those in stores, hospitals, long-term care, to police, fire, nurses, midwives, physicians, all of the ancillary supports that are going to help us with our mental health, with our physiotherapy, with all of those needs that we will have ongoing. And all of you who remain on the job coping with high risk, the EMS, the public health staff, so that we can stay home and out of harm's way. This is a time to recognize those also who produce beauty, flowers, shrubs, which make us feel good. And that is our farmers. Food security in Lincoln is not unique to us, but it is in many parts of the world. It gives us a high level of security that we don't have to worry where food is coming from, basically. But we know that food access is not always easy for everyone. The essential value of farms and farmers to our future must never be underestimated again. Now I want to switch quickly. Lincoln is celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, albeit not as we had originally planned. In fact, if you can see this is Lincoln Lager. We haven't even been able to celebrate with a toast with Lincoln Lager. But this is one of the things that was planned, and we thank Bench Brewery for that. I think it's important to look back and remember that we didn't get here without a few bumps along the way. How we go from here is an opportunity to define our community and the way we build it for the next 50 years. As we look back to the hope that created a united town of Lincoln 50 years ago, I want future generations to look back at this time and see the resolve and resilience that marked a pivotal time in the next chapters that are and will be written about Lincoln. How we emerged stronger, more united, and more ambitious than ever before. I thank you all. And now for the Feet to the Fire Award. You know that I have been giving this award out for the last couple of years. And now I want to tell you a quick story, and I will finish. This is a story about two young men, one who was 15 years old when he first came to us and said, "Madam Mayor, we need a skate park." Trevor Donegan not only persevered and raised money, $200 by $200, he also taught council about the social and cultural elements of skate parks and their benefit to the community. Adrian Panichetti, just about the time we were going to make a decision about the skate park, decided that a bike pump track is something that provides more of an intergenerational dimension. We will have the first bike pump track in Niagara when these two facilities open up in Rotary Park later this summer. The quality that brought these young people together was a desire to make their community safer, to improve the quality of life, particularly for young people, and a balanced personal desire to achieve, sometimes within a very slow and ponderous process of convincing and then finding money. However, eventually they got to the point where they both had significant input into the design. So that is the Feet to the Fire Award for 2020. I thank you for your attention and for all of your participation again. Once again, thank you very much to the Chamber. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. It's always great to hear from you, and thank you very much for all the hard work that you do. And congratulations to our Feet to the Fire Award winners for 2020. Just a reminder to all the participants that you can submit your questions and we will attempt to get you answers by going down to the bottom of your screen if you're on a desktop or laptop. And if it's on your mobile device, there should be a little icon you can click on there to get you the opportunity to submit a question, and we will try to get those questions answered for you this afternoon. Mayor Easton has brought with her the big guns today. I'm not sure if she was concerned that I might be giving her too hard of a time, so she brought some reinforcements, but just the same, she's brought with her from the town the Deputy Mayor and Wards 2 Councillor J.D. Pachariva, and he brings with him his private sector experience, his community volunteer experience, and his great experience on town council. And this provides great comfort to the town and the business community in these trying times. Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, David, for that inspirational introduction. Appreciate it. Just want to thank the Chamber, Anna and her team, for their innovative approach to delivering the Mayor's virtual luncheon today. Good afternoon, everyone. As your Deputy Mayor and following Mayor Easton, my goal is to share with you some general updates on what's been happening, both this year and since COVID. And while the Mayor focused on response, I will delve a bit into our outreach activities, but at first an overview. I also understand our regional councillor, Rob Foster, has joined the group, so a shout out to Rob and the good work he's doing for us at the region. When talking to a group like this, I'm often struck and I wonder, what should I focus on and what matters? So in terms of a few updates, I wanted to start with government relations and communications updates. As a town, we invested and redeveloped the town's entire website, including a new content management system, complete rewriting of all the content, and new information. To improve our experience, more now than ever, going digital is the key. We've developed a government relations strategy and have been successful at getting investments. In other words, we've been working with senior levels of government. Town staff and council, through our AMO delegations, continue to advocate other levels of government for financial support for a number of our projects. From 2015 to 2018, the town of Lincoln received over $11 million to support a number of local initiatives. For an example, funding has gone towards community infrastructure, such as the Concrete redevelopment, capital funding for the new museum and cultural center, federal gasoline tax for various infrastructure and road projects, library funding, economic development, such as the Healthy Kids program, and municipal disaster recovery assistance. A few other things we've also developed and led the implementation of the town's first facilities paid advertising program, and continue to oversee the program for the past 3 seasons. We've formed strong partnerships with Brock University, the Brock Lincoln Living Lab, Niagara College, and the Vineland Research and Innovation Center. We've also established and increased the town's overall digital footprint through social media, e-newsletters, and we've got 7 social media accounts and 3 digital newsletters. And these are all done in-house. For example, Council Connections done every 3 weeks. We do a call out to the ward councillors for pertinent information, and we help the communication out to the residents. Our latest news goes out as needed and posted to news articles on the website. It's used for public notices, personal service announcements, media releases, urgent issues such as water main breaks and road closures. Especially in the terms of a pandemic, the information needs to be accurate, current, balanced, not too ideological, clear, succinct, consistent, and repeated. Inside Lincoln is a bi-monthly publication that's distributed to all staff, and Living Lincoln is a quarterly publication, and our senior management team flags any pertinent projects, and they want to bring highlights to them. If you haven't done so already, I would suggest you follow the town, the mayor, and your councillors on social media. In terms of some economic overview, I know Chair McPherson will touch on economic development and tourism, but from a taxation and buildings perspective, almost $500 million in construction activity measured in building permits was issued between 2014 and 2019. In 2019 alone, the agricultural sector comprised almost $10 million of these building permits. Commercial activity generated another $2 million, and industrial another 800,000. We are a very diversified economy here in the town of Lincoln, and one of the most diversified in the region. Just to briefly talk about the current situation, our focus as we work through COVID will be this year and heading into 2021, what decisions we make. More than ever, each decision and its implications and what it means on both a local and macro scale will be important. We are about to start our budget process, and you'll hear more about that later. As folks on this call know, the budget process has 2 components. One involves the routine maintenance and day-to-day operations, the operating budget, and the other deals with the capital planning, the capital budget. Development of a budget now and in this climate of what is happening will focus on the following key areas. A budget identifies priorities as determined by council. A budget focuses on supporting the priorities of the public, including all residents and businesses, and a budget that looks at the financial resources available by those that pay, which will mean a budget that is prudent and maximizes every single dollar and looks hard at municipal spending needs. We have a massive obligation not only to all of you, but to all future generations. And as we come out of what I hope, and what you've heard the mayor say is truly an unprecedented health crisis, one I hope we don't see again for another generation. So I repeat, we have a massive obligation, not only to here and now, but to the future. And just in closing too, I just want to point out the immense kindness and generosity I've seen from our residents. It's truly uplifting. I know I like to say it gives me goosebumps when I speak about it. We're all in this together and we can weather the storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor and Deputy Mayor. Sorry, I forgot that little part there. I was just, again, I'd like to remind everyone to submit their questions. We've had some come in, but the more questions, the more interactive we can make this event. And look forward to seeing those questions. One of the things that's of great interest to the Chamber of Commerce and its members is the economic development plans that the town has been working on and what impact the current events will have on these efforts. The town recently launched Shop Lincoln campaign which found its genesis in the Planning and Economic Development Committee. And the chair of that committee is Ward 3 Councillor Paul McPherson, and he's here to share some words with us this afternoon. When I asked Paul to keep it brief, he thought I was talking about pants, but he assured me that he would be wearing his pants for the meeting today. Councillor McPherson's my councillor, so I get to poke fun at him all the time. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, David. And yes, I do have pants on. So good afternoon, all. Great to be on. Honored to play a part in the mayor's State of the Town. I'm going to focus on what has the town done to support local businesses since the beginning of the pandemic, and what are we doing to plan for our recovery. Since day one, the town has been in constant communication with the major leaders of various sectors of our economy. We've hosted industry calls with the Grape Growers Alliance, Vineland Growers representing the tender fruit growers, the Grape Growers of Ontario, obviously representing our grape growers here in town, the Ontario Craft Wineries representing our family-owned wineries, and the Niagara Home Builders Association representing our skilled trades and the development community. Hosted by Mayor Easton, these calls included business owners and industry experts, along with our CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, and EDO, Paul Liani, as well as 2 counselors on each call. We also, utilizing our internal town staff, conducted daily calls with Main Street businesses across Lincoln. Through all these calls, we ascertained the effects that COVID-19 has had on our business community, as well as identified avenues of support. Our goal was, and still is, to open lines of communication and show support where possible. Another key initiative, as David mentioned, was the recent launch of shoplincoln.ca, a one-stop shop for the residents of Lincoln, an area to support our local business community. Its objective, to help encourage support of local businesses. We've had an outstanding response to the website. I hope that all of you have had a chance to see the site, and if you find it of benefit to your business and are not currently listed, get in touch with Paul Liani and get signed up. I think you all know that we have waived late payment and interest charges on property taxes and water bills to the end of June. This was designed to support our local residents and business community that needed flexibility on property taxes. On a broader scale, Lincoln has been involved in the launch of the Niagara Economic Rapid Recovery Team. Our Economic Development Officer sits on this recovery team, which is made up of economic development departments throughout the region of Niagara. We are at the table working with our ECDEV colleagues across Niagara. The goal, no different than the efforts I spoke to earlier, is to ascertain the effect COVID-19 has had on our local business community, identify avenues of support, and develop a comprehensive recovery plan. Most recently, we have launched our internal Recover and Rebuild Task Force, geared towards helping our community, both residents and businesses. I will speak more to this in a bit. As for communication, we continue to use our website, live phone calls, Zoom calls, email newsletters, social media, and traditional media. Any avenue, any form of communication possible, we're utilizing it. The town has relayed economic support programs being announced by the province and federal government. This has helped our local businesses stay in the know when it comes to economic stimulus. So let's talk recovery planning. What is the town doing? As I mentioned, Lincoln's ECDEV officer is part of the Niagara Economic Rapid Recovery Team that is detailing a plan to get Niagara's economy working again. We're also simultaneously working on a local recovery plan that will focus on assisting our local businesses. This multi-angled plan will connect businesses with economic support programs. It will provide financial assistance on reopening plans. An example being a community improvement program to help with installation of sneeze guards. It will continue to market shoplincoln.ca as a direct access point for local businesses. We also plan to execute on our economic development strategy. supporting our various sectors, putting into action our comprehensive economic development plan, moving Lincoln's economy forward. We also plan to execute on the tourism strategy, supporting our local tourism sector. As part of that strategy, we are re-envisioning the tourism marketing organization. We're looking to market Lincoln and surrounding areas as a destination separate from our friends at Niagara-on-the-Lake and Niagara Falls. And looking to add new wayfinding to support our many tourism assets across our community. I mentioned the Recover and Rebuild Task Force. Well, they will be looking at returning our community to prosperity, getting town facilities and assets back up and running, along with helping to get our businesses back up and running. And finally, just this week, your town of Lincoln is providing businesses in our community with protective face shields so that employees and customers can feel safe at no charge to our local businesses. So contact Paul Bianni to get your shield. That's it for me. Thank you for listening. Back to you, Deb.
Thank you, Councillor. And it's a good looking shield made right here in the town of Lincoln. Fantastic. Now, also today with us is our town CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, and the town's economic development officer, Paul Bianni. And I was just going to say that much, but then earlier this afternoon when we were getting ready for the video conference, Mr. Bianni went and stood up and he went to go and fetch his dog because his dog was running around. And Paul, you have to show those pants that you're wearing. I can't let this one go because those pants are something else. If we were at the golf course where we would normally do this, you'd blend right in. But today I had to make honorable mention of those pants.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Always styling over here at the town of Lincoln, representing. I'll send you a picture later.
Fantastic. So thank you, gentlemen. Look forward to hearing from you today. Now we've had a couple of questions come in, but again, I would like to invite all of the participants. If you have a question, now's your opportunity. You can click in the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A, or if you're on a smart device, you'll find the toggle there to click on that. I'm going to start the ball rolling because one question came up whenever the mayor was talking. She held up a can of Lincoln Lager, and the question that went through my mind was that one that she'd already finished or one that she was about to start. I do have a follow-up question, Madam Mayor. There's the answer. Fantastic. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So what's been happening with the COVID-19 and all of the events around that? Presumably the revenues at the town have been down and it's likely been a significant drop in revenue. One of the questions that has come in is, could someone, and I'll start with the mayor and perhaps you can pass it off to someone else, could you describe what the town has done to either reduce costs or to capitalize on support from senior levels of government, if there is any out there to be capitalized upon? So I'll turn it over to the mayor, and then if the mayor wants to pass it along to someone else as well, then we will look forward to those responses.
Thank you very much, David. First of all, let me say that the town council at no time at this point has contemplated not continuing on with the plans that were made with the 2020 budget. And I think I know that to speak to the operations of that policy that we set back in December, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Kirkopoulos, as it is his responsibility to continue to implement, evaluate, and inform council on just those outcomes that you were referring to. So Mike, if you would take this question, please.
Thanks, David, and good afternoon to everyone. So I think specifically to answer your question, David, one of the things early on in our pandemic response that we did as a municipality was defer a significant amount of hiring. We often hire a lot of seasonal or summer employees, and as a result of not knowing which of our facilities would be open and which of our facilities would remain closed and the duration of those, we deferred all of those. That probably equates to a little over 70 individuals. that are currently not employed with the town of Lincoln. We've also canceled any non-essential travel that needs to occur. We put a hold organizationally on conferences and all those other expenses that oftentimes are associated with budgets and with some of the advocacy that you talk about. And so all of those things that have been put in place. Of course, revenues are one of the key things that municipalities look to balance our budgets. We either have taxation that we can go through or revenues through our various programs. So revenues have been the most impacted for us right now. We continue to look to other ways to save and also trying to find innovative ways to deliver programs and get people engaged. As it relates to working with senior levels of government, we continue to both liaise with and communicate at both the federal and provincial level with our colleagues there. You have seen FCM, LUMCO, AMO, all these organizations at both levels come out with requests for additional funding. We have been in conversations with Sam Oosterhoff, our local MVP, about stimulus programs, as well as our area members of federal parliament. And so I think there's more to come on the government side in terms of working with those senior levels of government. We're hoping for information in the near future. And I don't know if any of my other colleagues have anything further to add to that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. There's no other input. We did have a question come in from one of our participants, and she's asked, with regards to the preparations and guidelines for hair and nail salons that might be needed when they're allowed to reopen, and this was a particularly relevant question for me and Mike. Paul, not so much. Paul Deaney, that is, not so much. We were talking about that earlier. Paul did offer that Mike and I could come over and he would help clean us up a little, but I'm not sure that I'm brave enough to take that step just yet. So the question is, what, if any, preparations and guidelines for hair and nail salons have been explained whenever they're ready to reopen?
David, you couldn't have, this is so near and dear to everybody. We're all in the same boat. I'm so afraid to get the scissors out because I may start cutting my bangs. They're now down here in the middle of my nose. But the face shield that Councillor McPherson had on, it would seem to me that this would be a very, very good start. But I'm going to pass this on to our Economic Development Officer. There were new announcements made by the province today. I didn't have a chance to really read them. I'm interested to know whether hair salons and nail salons are on the list. Mr. Deaney, can you help us?
Mary Easton, and good afternoon, everyone. And David, as I had mentioned previously, the offer does stand for me to come over and cut your hair. I tell you, I'll do it in your driveway. But in regards to the question, Mary Easton, you are correct that the province, the provincial government, so the province of Ontario, did release some safety guidelines in regards to various sectors in our economy on how to operate safely when they can reopen. And the idea being is we do have on our website a link to the provincial guidelines, and we've also sent it out in a newsletter, an e-newsletter to our businesses in our community. So I'm happy to relay that information if you can share your contact info, or you can just go to the Lincoln.ca website. You can find a link to the provincial guidelines that the province have put out. In addition, I think our CAO would like to add in a comment or two.
So I think thanks, David. Thanks, Paul. I think just quickly to pick up on Mr. Deaney's comments, it is our understanding that barbershops, hair salons will be in the latter phases of the multi-phased plan that the province has put forward. And so if I was to hazard to guess when that would be occurring, I would probably look to something in early July.
The more the worse for all of us.
Oh my goodness.
Very good. We'll move on now. Just step away from COVID-related matters, and we had a question come in. Would the mayor please give an update on what the region and the town have been doing or are planning to do to alleviate truck traffic on King Street, Ontario Street, and Mountain Street? Still seeing a tremendous amount of truck traffic between Vineland and Beamsville to bypass the weigh scales on the QEW. This is a question I know that the mayor is familiar with, because I know she's been asked this a number of times before. So, Madam Mayor, is there something you can update us on in terms of what's happening in that respect?
Well, I have to say that this question is never going to go away. Doesn't matter who the mayor is sitting in the mayor's seat, wearing those chains, this issue of public safety, I think, is always going to be with us. I've been working very closely with Councillor Foster and the Director of Roads and Transportation at the region on this matter. We've broken it down into a number of different projects, and most of them rely on the region making decisions and making investments. And so they come out, they may mark the streets to make it more visible, where people should be walking, where they shouldn't be walking. They're doing a major traffic count at the moment. And I almost hesitate to mention this because this has to be maybe the third or the fourth time that this effort has been made. There's something about the circumstances and the way the counts are being done, the pressure that we're putting on to have another stoplight put down near the Drake survey. Apparently the warrants are not there according to traffic standards, but it's still a major, major concern. I would say that we are not, I couldn't say to you that we are being successful, but I have to believe that the conversations that we've had are not falling on deaf ears. There are plans, and we expect that we're going to be receiving cooperation. I think there's other issues as well. I believe it's next week that we're meeting with Walker Brother Quarries to talk about their plans. There may be some relief coming with one of the if one of the quarries closes in the next 3 to 4 years. But something else that contributes to the volume, of course, is the amount of building that's going on. We can't really blame trucking companies for that. And when that building is done, there will be more relief. However, we also have a lot of people in town that are doing quite well, I might add, when they have a lot of dump trucks bringing soil to their properties. They're paid by the load. It puts a huge burden on our roads. I don't really think that we can stand out in the middle of the road and say, don't go to this place or that place. So I'm not skirting this issue. I don't believe we've been successful. We are making initiatives. We will continue to do that. I do have faith that our communications with the region are going to come to fruition. I don't know, Mr. Krikopoulos, if you have anything more that you can add to that from an infrastructure perspective. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mary. And if I could just add, and I think to pick up on that study that the mayor highlighted and some of that work that's going on, we have partnered with Niagara Region and looking at a potential designated truck route to go down Bartlett and not through our downtown. And so there's a broader study going on with the larger Bartlett that's in Grimsby becoming a permanent route. That is a much more longer term effort and endeavor. But we're also looking at our existing Bartlett Street here in town. And so that when vehicles would come down the mountain, instead of turning left and going through our downtown and through our business districts, they would rather turn right and find themselves going to the QEW in that particular location. So the region has partnered in that study and they are participating. And then again, I don't have a significant amount of more information than the mayor does at this particular point in time.
Thank you, Mike.
David,
this is a matter.
Sorry, David, if I may just quickly to add to that as well. I know our executive, the Beamsville BIA, the executive director, Stephanie Hicks, has been really on top of this for her members in the downtown core and continues to liaison with her colleagues at the region as well to keep this on the radar. So a shout out to Stephanie and the BIA and the members in the downtown core for keeping this a hot topic and on top of mind.
Yeah, and David, if I may just add too, we're also partnering with the region on a plan for trucks coming easterly to use Bartlett Avenue in Grimsby and go down and use the north or south service road as part of a truck route through town. And we're not going this alone. Mayor Easton led our delegation last year with Transportation Minister Mulrooney at Roma and Ogra, along with Mayor Jordan and Mayor Bosma from West Lincoln and Sam Osterhoff. And we stressed the importance of a mountain access and opening up Bartlett, not only for truck access, but also to access the West Lincoln Industrial Park. So using an ECDEV lens to look at that and realizing that, and we can't do it alone. Let's use the other West Niagara municipalities, and the region was also there as a partner at the table. So collaboratively, I'm hopeful we can keep pushing this uphill.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Deputy Mayor. That's helpful information. There was a question came in looking for links for accessible, or links that are accessible for businesses to many of the things that we're talking about. And just going to steal Mr. Deaney's thunder for a moment and encourage that question, the people to visit the town's website. I've been on the website and surfed around, and you can get lost on it. There's lots of great information there, but I would encourage people that are having questions to go onto the website, and if they don't find what they're looking for at that point, I would encourage you to reach out to Mr. Deaney, because he seems to be on top of these things and has lots of great answers. I hope that's okay, Paul. I'm not trying to make you any busier than you already are, but I think that you'll be able to find great information on the website, and Paul can fill in any of the blanks.
Thank you very much, David. I appreciate it. I'm just going to pop my email address in the chat here so everyone can see it, and email me if you have any questions, but also if you'd like to be on our Ease newsletter list, please email me your email address.
Yes, and I subscribe to that service, and I would recommend it to anyone. You don't have to read everything, but the information does pop up, and if it's something that's of interest to you, then by all means, you've got it now right on your phone. Now, this question comes to some character named Robert Foster, and I'm assuming that's the one that we all know and love. And I say that in a very affectionate way, Rob, because I bet you his hair looks fabulous right now. Councillor Foster writes that he was able to attend a council meeting this past week, and a very important decision to support the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital was made. He knows that Mayor Easton and him are working to get the region in line. What is the thinking about raising funds within the community outside of the region, or is this still in discussion? And then he said, good work. And I think he was talking to me in that, but he might have been talking to the rest of the panelists, but I'm going to take it as good for me. We'll turn that over to Mayor Easton, and you can invite others to comment.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. And, there's nothing worse than a mutual admiration society, but there's so many of us that have been working in councils and out in the communities on the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital proposition that when you look around, especially on Monday night, with the delegates that agreed to come and speak, it was just wonderful to have HHS there. Sam Oosterhoff attended. We had members of the foundation there. We also had the chair of the community committee and also the advisory committee, which would have normally been the board of West Lincoln Hospital. And I think I've pretty well covered everybody. And so I'm going to go to Mr. Kirkopoulos, because we are at a stage now where the decision has to be made. It's a total of about $60 million that has to be raised by the communities, but it's a consideration of how is that going to happen, and where's the money going to come from? And so there's not really science to it, but obviously it's a huge amount of money, particularly in these times. The bottom line is we have to have this hospital. If we've learned nothing else, not to have a modern hospital available to us when you have situations like we are confronted with now is a major, major problem. And so we have to have those facilities close to home. So I'm going to ask Mr. Kirkopoulos to talk more about that local share formula piece and how we're going to go forward.
Thanks, Mayor Easton, and thanks for the question, Councillor Foster. Both the mayor and the council are correct. There is a significant responsibility that that municipalities have, but how it's actually framed is that there needs to be a local contribution to hospitals. Over the last decade or so, policies changed where municipalities have to make a contribution But part of that contribution is not just the responsibility of municipalities, it's also the responsibility of hospital foundations. It's also the responsibility of other partners, and of course, philanthropy plays a key role in that. So the mayor is correct. Approximately $60 million is required. It is a little over a $200 million hospital redevelopment that we are looking at. And of that 60 million, there will be a portion that is definitely the foundation's responsibility. There will be a portion that is the region's responsibility. There is a little bit of science into the calculation, and we are working with KPMG at this particular point in time in terms of, what is that municipal apportionment when you subtract all of those other monies that will be raised and have been raised. The town, a number of years ago, did levy residents and has a little under $2.5 million in the bank right now. We have just at this past meeting moved those monies into an account where the interest will be put back into that account, so those monies can continue to grow over the next 2 or 3 years as the hospital does get built. And our next step will be to present options between now and the end of the year as we progress through the phases of the approval process of the province on how we would make up that additional portion. It may work out in the amount of $7 to $9 million. Again, potentially depending on what the region and other partners contribute, but we will be before council a number of times over the next 6 months to talk about that again.
Fantastic.
David, if I can, I just wanted to add that this is obviously a very key time in the whole hospital rebuild, and I think it's appropriate to recognize not only the work of the 3 mayors over several years and the advocacy that they have pushed for, but also Tony Josie and the Save and Rebuild group that really kept it alive in the community, and the undying efforts of our MPP Sam Oosterhoff to get us to where we are today. It's really a significant accomplishment to be where we're at and to have an actual new building in our site. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Yes, I know that Sam is working very hard on this, and I know that MP Dean Allison is on the participating this afternoon because he did take the opportunity to make a comment with respect to my bar, and I'm just thinking that MP Allison's one to talk about haircuts, but we won't go down that road. We did get a question with respect to masks, and the province has recommended but not mandated mask wearing. Suggestions for businesses for the people that are not comfortable with their customers who are not wearing masks. And I might direct them to Mr. Deanny and to Councillor McPherson, who was sporting that great face shield earlier. They might find some assistance there. We are running out of time, folks. We're a few minutes behind, which isn't too bad because Mayor Easton, well, we know Mayor Easton likes to share what's going on, and we love to give her the opportunity. So we've caught ourselves back up. I'm going to see if Anna Murray is still out there. She's been very quiet for the last little while, but I think we're going to turn it back over to her with some closing remarks and get on with our day. So thanks very much to everyone who participated. And if you do have some questions, still send them in. We'll get them to the right people and make sure that you get an answer to those questions. Thank you. And Anna, the floor is yours. You're still muted, Anna, so you have to unmute. Good thing you were muted when you said that bad word. There we go.
Man, I didn't swear at all, although I was tempted. Thanks so much to Mayor Easton, our panelists, and of course, Dave Brown for moderating and asking the questions. And I just wanted to reiterate what Dave just said in terms of there were some questions asked that we didn't have an opportunity to answer on the call. However, we have submitted the questions and the people who have asked them to our panelists, and they will reach out directly to you. So not to worry, those answers will will be provided. So as mentioned earlier, we also have made this recording available on our YouTube channel, and we'll also make sure that we send a link to the recording out to all of the attendees so that you can share it and relook at some of these answers as well. So normally at this point, I'd be able to share with you some of our upcoming events. However, it's a bit of a different time right now. Our Outstanding Business Achievements Awards are still in the works. We had rescheduled for June 24th, but at this point we do recognize that that date won't be feasible for an in-person gathering of that size. We're looking at adapting that event, and we're going to provide details as soon as they're available. Today would have been the date of our annual Mayor's Charity Golf Classic. We've tentatively rescheduled that for late September, but that of course will also depend on what restrictions are still in place at that time. We're working on it. We'll keep you up to date. We'll keep you posted. Check out the events page on our website, sign up for our e-newsletter, and follow us on social media, and we'll keep you in the loop. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. Stay well, and we look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you, Anna.